Imagine a life where the spotlight never fades, where millions remember every note you sing, yet behind the stage lights lies a silent battle no one sees. Barry Gibb, the voice that defined an era, brought joy to countless fans with the Bee Gees' timeless hits. But his story is not only about music and glory. Long before the world cheered for his falsetto, Barry faced struggles that shaped him in ways fame could never erase. His path was filled with personal tragedies, moments of loss, and the heavy weight of expectations that came with being a musical icon. In the midst of chart-topping albums and sold-out arenas, Barry's private life was a delicate balancing act between love, grief, and relentless pressure. While fans celebrated the music, few knew the sacrifices and heartaches that accompanied each performance, each recording, each decision. The paradox is striking: admired and beloved by millions, yet carrying pain that often went unseen. In this story, we will uncover the truths behind Barry Gibb's life, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, and the moments that tested him like never before. Stay with us as we reveal the journey that transformed an ordinary man into a legend and the tragedies that shaped his extraordinary life. Beginnings and early struggles. Barry Gibb entered the world on September 1st, 1946, on the small Isle of Man, a place far removed from the glittering lights of fame that would later define his life. He was born into a modest family, with parents who had simple dreams for their children, a home filled with love, a safe childhood, and the hope of a stable future. Yet life had other plans. From an early age, Barry learned that hardship could arrive unexpectedly, shaping the person he would become. One particularly harrowing moment occurred when he was just a young boy. A scalding teapot fell on him, causing severe burns that left permanent marks on his body. Those scars were not just physical. They became symbols of vulnerability and a constant reminder that life could shift in a single instant, leaving pain and uncertainty in its wake. This traumatic experience could have overshadowed his youth entirely, but Barry discovered a powerful outlet: music. While many children of his age played carefree games or wandered through quiet streets, Barry found solace in melodies. He realized that music could carry him away from fear, sadness, and the harsh realities he faced at home. Alongside his brothers Maurice, Robin, and later Andy, Barry began to explore this new world. Singing together was more than a hobby. It became a shared escape from the struggles of their daily lives. The brothers harmonized, practiced relentlessly, and in the simple act of creating music, they found control over something, a small space where they could shape their own reality. In the late 1950s, the family made a significant move to Australia, seeking better opportunities and a fresh start. This transition was not without its challenges. Adjusting to a new country, a new school, and an unfamiliar culture tested young Barry in ways he could never have anticipated. Yet, it was in Australia that the seeds of the Bee Gees began to take root. The brothers performed at small venues, school events, and local talent shows, gradually earning recognition for their extraordinary voices. Even then, Barry's distinctive falsetto stood out. It was clear, even in these modest performances, that his voice had the potential to move people in ways few others could. Every note carried a blend of hope, sorrow, and youthful vulnerability, the echoes of a boy who had already faced life's darker moments before he even fully understood the world. Despite the glimmers of success, Barry's early years were far from carefree. Life demanded resilience. He navigated school challenges, social pressures, and the lingering shadows of his childhood injuries. Music remained a constant, a loyal companion that offered both comfort and purpose. At home, The Gibb household was filled with the kind of tight-knit familial bonds that come from shared struggle. The brothers relied on one another for support, encouragement, and companionship. Each harmony they created was a reflection not just of their musical talent, but of the unity that had been forged through hardship and adversity. By his teenage years, Barry was beginning to understand the profound connection between music and emotion. He realized that the songs he sang could express feelings he could not put into words: grief, longing, hope, and the quiet determination to persevere. His childhood had been marked by sudden trauma, small victories, and the unspoken pressure to rise above circumstances beyond his control. Music offered an arena where he could transform those experiences into something tangible, something that might one day resonate with the world beyond his immediate life. Even as fame and recognition seemed distant, the foundations of Barry Gibb's extraordinary career were being laid in these early years. The combination of hardship, family support, and the healing power of music instilled in him a work ethic, sensitivity, and emotional depth that would later define the Bee Gees. Each performance, even in front of small local audiences, was a rehearsal not only for public acclaim, but for personal survival, a way to confront the pain of the past while reaching toward a brighter, imagined future. Those early experiences shaped more than just his voice. They molded his character. Barry learned to carry grief quietly, to channel it into something beautiful, and to recognize that even moments of joy were colored by the memory of loss and struggle. Every note he sang contained layers of innocence and melancholy, the dual essence of a childhood interrupted and dreams patiently waiting to bloom. By the time the Bee Gees would take the world by storm, Barry Gibb was not only a gifted singer, but a man whose early struggles had prepared him to face the inevitable challenges of life, fame, and heartache with courage, insight, and profound emotional resonance. Soaring high fame, music, glory. As the Bee Gees began to rise, Barry Gibb's falsetto quickly became more than just a part of their sound. It became their identity. That high, clear voice carried emotions that words alone could not capture. From the first notes, it told stories of love, loss, joy, and longing, drawing listeners in across the globe. Songs like "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart" resonated deeply because they spoke to universal experiences of heartache, while disco anthems like "Stayin' Alive" transformed mundane nights into celebrations filled with energy, rhythm, and freedom. The Bee Gees were not just performers. They became a soundtrack to an era. Their music played in homes, clubs, and radio, connecting with people in ways that few artists could ever achieve. Barry, however, knew that behind every performance, every chart-topping hit, there was relentless work and personal sacrifice. Countless hours were spent in recording studios, practicing harmonies, writing lyrics, and perfecting every note. While the audience saw polished concerts, flashing lights, and roaring applause, Barry lived in a world of constant expectation. He was expected to maintain not just his voice, but an image of success, charm, and composure. Every appearance was a reminder that the world admired the music, but knew little about the man behind the microphone. The contrast between public perception and private reality was striking. On stage, Barry seemed unstoppable, singing falsettos that reached heights few could even imagine. Off stage, however, moments of doubt, exhaustion, and quiet reflection often surfaced. Fame brought financial rewards, recognition, and opportunities that his younger self could hardly have dreamed of while enduring childhood hardships. Yet, with every success came pressure to deliver the next hit, to remain relevant in a rapidly changing industry, and to protect the Bee Gees' reputation as musical icons. Even as they filled stadiums with fans chanting along to their songs, Barry sometimes felt a silent distance, a separation between the applause and the quiet thoughts that occupied his mind. The journey to the top was far from linear. Success brought scrutiny as well. Media attention intensified, and every action, word, and relationship became a subject of public discussion. Barry's life, once private and shielded, now unfolded under the relentless gaze of fans, journalists, and critics. Yet despite the challenges, he remained focused on the music. It was more than fame or fortune, it was a calling, a way to process emotions, and a means to connect with millions who found pieces of their own stories in his songs. Touring was both exhilarating and exhausting. Traveling from country to country, performing to sold-out crowds, and meeting fans who adored him was rewarding. Yet, the constant movement, lack of privacy, and pressure to maintain perfection weighed heavily. The stage became a place of escape, where Barry could channel joy, heartache, and energy into melodies that seemed to heal not only himself, but the audiences who listened. Each performance reminded him of the power of music, how a single note or lyric could change a mood, spark a memory, or create a moment of pure connection. Barry's influence grew beyond the Bee Gees' albums. His songwriting, production, and harmonies set new standards for the industry. Artists sought his guidance, inspired by the way he could convey profound emotion through melody and phrasing. The Bee Gees' reputation became global, and Barry emerged as both a leader and a creative force within the group. However, the accolades and recognition never fully quieted the echoes of his past. Childhood scars, early struggles, and personal doubts were never far beneath the surface, quietly reminding him of the fragility of success and the unpredictability of life. Even at the peak of glory, the tension between public adoration and private reality remained. Every high note Barry sang carried a weight, the joy of achievement mixed with the shadow of personal challenges. The applause masked private battles, and the world knew the voice, but not the man who had endured accidents, childhood hardships, and years of relentless work to reach this stage. Fame was a double-edged sword. It elevated him to heights few could imagine, yet it magnified every struggle, every fear, and every quiet moment of reflection. Through it all, Barry remained committed to his craft, driven by a love of music that transcended awards, fame, or money. His voice became timeless, his songs enduring classics. Yet the man behind the microphone lived with a quiet understanding that life's victories and joys were always paired with challenges and sacrifices. The Bee Gees soared high, but Barry's journey revealed that even at the pinnacle of fame, the human heart carries both celebration and sorrow, triumph and reflection in equal measure. Brothers gone, heartbreaks begin. Tragedy struck Barry Gibb at a time when his life seemed to be at the very peak of success. The world saw a man whose voice carried joy, love, and energy to millions, yet behind the scenes, he faced heartbreak that few could imagine. One by one, the people who had been closest to him, his brothers, his partners in music and life's journey, began to slip away. Their voices had been intertwined with his, their presence constant, and their bond unbreakable. Yet suddenly, Barry found that unshakable foundation disappearing. The first blow came with the death of his youngest brother, Andy. Andy was only 30, a young man full of life and potential. His sudden passing left Barry reeling. The grief was immediate, crushing, and unrelenting. It was as if a part of his own soul had been torn away. Andy had shared childhood memories, stage triumphs, and private moments that Barry could never replicate or forget. In the quiet moments between tours, between studio sessions, Barry would often pause, remembering Andy's laughter, his encouragement, and the simple, everyday moments that had once seemed so ordinary. Those memories now carried the sharp sting of loss, reminding him constantly of the fragility of life. The pain did not end there. Years later, Maurice, the elder brother whose calm presence had balanced the energy of the group, passed away unexpectedly. Maurice had been a steady hand, a voice that brought harmony both musically and emotionally to the trio. His death left a void that could not be replaced. The stage that once echoed with three distinct voices now felt hollow and empty, and Barry struggled to reconcile the joy of performing with the deep sadness he carried in his heart. Survivor's guilt began to creep in, the haunting question of why he remained while his brothers were gone, and whether life would ever feel the same again. Not long after, Robin, another brother and an essential part of the Bee Gees, also passed away. Barry was left as the last surviving voice of the trio that had once lit up the world with their harmonies. The laughter, the sibling jokes, the late-night songwriting sessions all became memories tinged with sorrow. Every note he sang now carried a weight, a reminder of the people who had helped shape not only the music, but the man he had become. The emotional toll was immense. Each song, each performance, was a mixture of triumph and grief, a bittersweet reflection of what was and what had been lost. Being alone in the spotlight brought new challenges. Barry had always shared the creative load with his brothers, and their absence forced him to navigate both his career and personal life in solitude. He learned to manage the business, write new music, and perform on stages without the familiar support that had been his anchor. Yet, no amount of success could fill the emptiness created by the loss of those he loved most. The applause of audiences, the bright lights, and the recognition of millions could not replicate the presence of family, the warmth of shared memories, or the comfort of knowing someone was there through every high and low. Music became both a lifeline and a reminder of the losses he had endured. Writing and performing helped Barry cope, but it also amplified his sense of solitude. Songs that once celebrated togetherness and joy now often carried an undertone of melancholy, reflecting the absence of the voices he loved. Behind every lyric, behind every harmony, there was a silent acknowledgement of the brothers who were gone, the childhood shared, the dreams pursued together, and the inevitable pain of being left behind. The world saw a legendary performer, a man whose songs filled arenas and topped charts. But few could see the man behind the music, a man haunted by memories, grappling with grief and learning to continue despite the heartache that never truly faded. Barry's journey through these losses is a testament to resilience. He carried on, performing and creating, but every moment was colored by memory and sorrow. The world celebrated the songs and the fame, yet the personal tragedy that shadowed each note was profound. The stage became a paradox, a place of connection and success, yet also a reminder of the silence left behind by those who could no longer stand beside him. Every applause echoed not just with celebration, but with the bittersweet reminder of what had been lost. Even now, Barry's story teaches a deeper lesson about life, fame, and human emotion. It shows that even in moments of tremendous achievement, the human heart can carry unimaginable sorrow. It reveals the delicate balance between public success and private pain, and how one man's music became a vessel for both joy and grief. Through it all, Barry Gibb's voice endured, rising above tragedy, carrying with it the memories of his brothers, and touching the lives of millions who may never know the depth of his personal heartbreak. Silence. behind the spotlight. Even in the dazzling glow of fame, Barry Gibb's life was far from the picture-perfect image the world imagined. On the surface, concerts were filled with thunderous applause, screaming fans, and flashing lights that captured the attention of millions. Every song performed, every falsetto note hit, was met with admiration, adoration, and celebration. Yet behind the curtain, in the quiet spaces that nobody saw, life told a different story. The very rooms meant for rest and reflection often felt emptier than the largest arenas he had ever performed in. Silence carried a weight that was heavier than any crowd could ever understand. Those moments, when the cheers faded and the lights dimmed, were often the most challenging. It was in that quiet that the shadows of loss, pain, and grief appeared most sharply. The deaths of his brothers, Andy, Maurice, and Robin, had left permanent scars on Barry's heart. Even with the world showering him with success, accolades, and recognition, he felt incomplete. Survivor's guilt clung to him like an invisible chain. Questions he could not answer haunted him constantly. Why did he survive when his brothers did not? Could he ever honor their memory properly? Was it fair for him to continue when part of him felt broken inside? These doubts were not fleeting thoughts. They were deep, persistent, and unrelenting. They would surface in moments of quiet reflection, during late nights in empty hotel rooms, and even in the small intervals between recording sessions. The applause might celebrate the artist, but it did nothing to soothe the man who carried unimaginable sorrow. Music became Barry's sanctuary, a refuge from emotions that words could not capture. Every melody, every lyric, became a vessel for grief, a way to express what he could not say aloud. Writing songs was more than a creative outlet. It was therapy, a way to process pain that otherwise remained trapped in his chest. Some nights were especially long and lonely, stretching endlessly as memories of laughter, shared dreams, and family moments returned with the sharp edge of absence. These memories were not just nostalgic, they were reminders of what he had lost, the voices that would never harmonize again, and the empty chairs at family gatherings. Fame, while dazzling and intoxicating, brought its own complications. To the outside world, Barry Gibb was a legend, a voice that defined an era, a man who had achieved the kind of success that others could only dream of. Yet the recognition could not erase the private grief he carried. The public saw only the performer, the smiling figure on stage who commanded arenas and radio waves. They did not see the man in the quiet room, staring at old photographs, replaying memories, or feeling the crushing weight of loneliness. They did not know that each hit song, each high note, sometimes echoed the sadness he felt, rather than just the joy he delivered. The contrast between public triumph and private sorrow was profound, making his resilience all the more remarkable. These moments of solitude revealed the depth of Barry's humanity. They showed a man who, despite being celebrated worldwide, experienced the same raw pain as anyone else, perhaps even magnified because of his position. He understood heartbreak intimately, not as a concept or story, but as a lived reality. Yet, despite this, he continued to share his gift with the world. Every performance was a triumph of spirit over grief, a way to transform personal pain into something that could inspire, console, and uplift others. The duality of Barry's life, the brilliant performer and the grieving brother, underscored the complexity of human emotion and the invisible battles people often fight. Even amidst his sorrow, Barry sought ways to honor the memories of his brothers. He wrote songs that reflected loss, love, and the fleeting nature of life. He performed with a heart that carried both celebration and mourning, turning stages into spaces where joy and grief coexisted. Through music, he not only healed himself, but also connected with fans who had their own struggles, showing them that even in the face of immense loss, life and art could continue. Each note, each melody, carried fragments of memory, the echo of his brothers' voices, and the strength he found in perseverance. Barry's inner battles highlight a truth many overlook. Even the most successful and admired people have private struggles that remain unseen. Fame and recognition cannot shield one from grief, nor can applause erase the pain of personal loss. Yet, in his quiet moments of reflection, Barry Gibb demonstrated a resilience that inspired millions, not just through music, but through the courage to face life's harshest realities, to carry on after immense loss, and to transform private sorrow into a legacy of enduring artistry. Behind the spotlight, in the silent spaces, he was not only a star, he was a man who lived, felt, grieved, and ultimately continued to shine despite the darkness surrounding him. Resilience, healing, and legacy beyond loss. Even after enduring heartbreak that would have crushed many, Barry Gibb chose not to surrender to despair. The pain of losing his brothers Andy, Maurice, and Robin was a burden no one could imagine. Yet Barry found a way to carry it forward, transforming private grief into public inspiration. Each day presented a new challenge, a reminder of absence, and the echo of memories that could never be replaced. The world watched him as a performer, a living legend with a voice that defined generations, but few understood the depth of sorrow he carried quietly within. Still, Barry refused to let grief define the rest of his life. Instead, he dedicated his music, his performances, and his very existence to keeping the memory of his brothers alive. Every song written, every note sung, became a tribute way of ensuring that the harmonies they had shared would continue to resonate long after their absence. Performing was never just a career for Barry, it was a lifeline. Touring the world, stepping onto stages, and hearing the roar of audiences reminded him that life still offered moments of connection, beauty, and meaning. Yet, behind every applause, he felt the bittersweet reminder of the brothers who would never again share the spotlight with him. It was this tension between joy and sorrow that shaped him, forcing him to grow not just as an artist, but as a man. Music became a vessel for processing emotions too complex to articulate. Every lyric carried fragments of memory, laughter shared in childhood, the excitement of early performances, the quiet moments of sibling support, and the tragedy of their sudden departures. Through this process, Barry discovered a profound truth. Pain could coexist with creativity, grief could fuel artistry, and loss could be transformed into something lasting and beautiful. Even in the darkest hours, Barry found ways to heal, though the journey was neither linear nor simple. The scars of his past, the accidents of childhood, the relentless pressures of fame, and the devastation of losing family did not vanish overnight. Healing was gradual, taking the form of quiet reflection, long nights writing music, and the steady commitment to honor his brother's legacy. Fans saw the polished performances and sold-out shows, but Barry's resilience lay in the spaces in between, in the moments when he confronted sorrow without an audience, when he faced silence and allowed himself to grieve fully. Those moments were private battles, invisible to the world, yet they shaped the depth of his artistry. It is in these moments that his courage shines brightest, not merely for surviving tragedy, but for continuing to create beauty despite it. Barry's perseverance turned grief into something tangible, something the world could experience and connect with. Albums released after the loss of his brothers were not simply collections of song, they were chronicles of resilience. Each melody, each harmony, carried layers of emotion, blending heartbreak with hope, despair with determination. Fans, knowingly or unknowingly, became part of Barry's healing journey, finding solace in the music that emerged from his struggle. Through this exchange, Barry transformed personal tragedy into collective experience. The stages he stood upon, the arenas he filled, became spaces where sorrow and joy could coexist, where audiences could feel the depth of human emotion and the triumph of spirit. As the years passed, Barry's story evolved into something beyond fame or talent. It became a lesson in endurance and hope. He demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming loss, a person could rebuild, find purpose, and continue to share their gifts with the world. Barry's music, once celebrated merely for its entertainment value, grew into a testament to survival, a living archive of love, memory, and resilience. Each note he sang, each song he wrote, carried the weight of experience, the depth of emotion, and the unwavering commitment to honor those who were gone. This transformation of private grief into public art shows the power of human perseverance, the capacity to endure, and the ability to turn personal tragedy into something meaningful for others. Today, Barry Gibb stands not just as a music legend, but as a symbol of the human spirit's capacity to endure. He represents the intersection of triumph and heartbreak, joy and sorrow, remembrance and renewal. The melodies he continues to create are imbued with a duality that reflects life itself. Moments of happiness intertwined with echoes of loss, beauty tempered by experience, and strength forged through adversity. His story resonates not only with fans of music, but with anyone who has faced grief, loss, or adversity. It reminds us that even after the deepest pain, life still offers opportunities to grow, connect, and find meaning. Through his unwavering dedication to music and memory, Barry has ensured that the voices of his brothers remain alive in the hearts of millions. Every performance, every album, and every song becomes a bridge between past and present, a celebration of life, even amidst tragedy. Barry's resilience is a blueprint for turning sorrow into purpose. The world may remember him for his extraordinary voice, but those closest to his journey recognize the true depth of his courage, the courage to keep living fully, to keep creating fully, and to keep loving fully, despite the weight of loss. In the end, Barry Gibb's legacy is far more than a career filled with hits and accolades. It is a story of a man who endured unimaginable heartbreak, yet chose to rise, to honor the past, and to inspire the present. It is a reminder that strength and vulnerability can exist together, that hope can grow even in the shadow of sorrow, and that the human spirit can endure even when the heart has been shattered. Barry's life is a testament to the enduring power of memory, love, and resilience, a story that continues to unfold with each note he sings, with each stage he graces, and with each listener who finds solace and inspiration in his music. The story of Barry Gibb is not just about disco nights, chart-topping hits, or bright lights. It is about the cost of fame, a cost that sometimes comes in heartbreak, loss, and lonely silence. At 54, fame may have defined his present, but his past shaped his soul. He lost brothers, friends, normal life, and yet he kept living. He kept singing. He kept honoring memories through music. In every falsetto, every lyric, you might hear a whisper of grief, but also a steady beat of hope. So when you listen to Stayin' Alive, or How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, remember, Behind the voice is a man who has known deep sorrow, who has survived pain that few can imagine. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share what part moved you most. Let's keep remembering the voices that shaped music history and the man who stood strong even when his world fell apart.